Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Full Movie Podcast, a show where we talk about those long forgotten classics that deserve a rewatch. I'm Freya.
And I'm Matt.
How are you today, Matt?
I'm okay. I'm doing good, actually. How are you?
I'm feeling a lot better.
Good.
Full disclosure, I had a precautionary COVID-19 test, and it came back negative. Hooray!
Huzzah!
So, yes, that is positive.
Oh, good for you for being well.
Thank you, yes. I'm already feeling miles better just knowing that I don't have a horrible virus.
That's good. Good.
So,
I'm glad that you're safe.
Thank you. What have you been watching this week?
Well, because of you...
Because of me.
I haven't been able to be at work for the last few days.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I know. So I've been catching up on The Boys.
Of course, yes. Very exciting.
It is very good. We have a connection today with The Boys, but I'll go on to that later. Also, I watched Dragon, the Bruce Lee movie, which was a very random film to watch, but
Indeed.
I saw it on Sky Movies and I was like, yes, haven't seen that film in ages. And it's good.
Good.
What about you? What have you watched?
Well, I have been also watching The Boys, obviously. I've also been kind of binge watching Come Dine With Me on Netflix. Not necessarily proud of that. And I watched a selection of random horror films on Prime. I can't remember what any of them were called. I watched Skeleton Key, which was fine.
And the Ross Noble
yes.
Stitches.
I watched Stitches also, which was very silly, but I enjoyed it.
Do you like that film?
Yeah, it's just silly. And, you know, the kind of teenage actors aren't amazing, but Ross Noble was great.
Well, it's Hollyoaks versus a clown.
Yeah. And the clown...
Actually, you sold!
Yeah, the clown wins out for the large part. So, yes.
Spoilers, God.
I thought, well, okay, fine.
Everybody wants to go and see that film.
No, but it's not fantastic cinema, but it's very enjoyable and very silly. So, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so what are we talking about today?
Today we will be discussing, and full-on apologies again to Emma and Dan, who have recently just done this on their real-life ghost story pod. We're doing the 2005 Keanu Reeves comic book adaptation of Hellblazer, Constantine.
Hellbound exorcist John Constantine and reluctant psychic detective Angela Dodson.
We got Dodson! Sorry, that's Jurassic Park reference.
Find their worlds colliding following the apparent suicide of Angela's twin sister.
Cool. Directed by Francis Lawrence. This was his first film. He went on to direct I Am Legend, the last three Hunger Games films, Mockingbird. Sure, I don't know. We own them, but...
I haven't bothered watching all of them.
Yeah. Red Sparrow. God, this guy's got an obsession with birds, ain't he? So.
He does.
And Apple TV's C. Now, I should point out that Francis Lawrence, again, I'm not going to have a go at him for his filmmaking or anything like that. He mostly came from music videos. Okay. So he did music videos for bands like Bad Religion. Yes, we love Bad Religion. Aerosmith, Jennifer Lopez, Ricky Martin, Destiny's Child, Green Day, Britney Spears, Will Smith, Pink, OK Go, and Justin Timberlake.
Very diverse.
Yeah, and the OK Go video is that I think it's the Get Over It one, which is kind of one that made them famous.
Cool.
But yeah, he's done more music videos than films.
Interesting.
It was based on the Alan Moore, which I have a thing about Alan Moore because I used to work in a pub in Northampton.
Yeah.
And he would come in and he was very nice, very polite, very friendly. So he's a very quiet guy. And then at one point, I can't remember what I was doing. I was on my way to London. I can't remember what I was doing. And I was sat across from him and just chatted away with him. So it was just a nice guy. Really cool. You know, he dresses like a wizard. You know,
as all the best people do.
He's very well spoken. He's very, very knowledgeable. So yes, it was based on his his comic Hellblazer. Alan Moore would do Watchmen and V for Vendetta and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and all the good Batman ones. It was later adapted because that was more Swamp Thing. but then it was kind of solo outing, which was done by Gareth Ennis, who did The Boys and Preacher, as well as Jamie Delano. So good for them. Great comic book people altogether.
Yes.
This was adapted by Kevin Broadbent, who did Mindhunters, and Frank A. Capello, who did a very kind of unknown film called He Was a Quiet Man.
Okay.
It's a Christian Slater film. I recommend that, actually. It's a strange watch, but I do recommend He Was a Quiet Man. And also Suburban Commando, the Hulk Hogan film.
Amazing.
So, well done, Frank A. Capello. What do we think of this, Freya?
I do like this film. I have always liked this film.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, I like... I love a bit of Keanu, I will admit. I know that we're going to talk further about Keanu, but let me just say right now, I love a bit of Keanu. In my eyes, he can do no wrong. Yes.
You like Keanu?
I do. I think he's just got such a sweet little face, and he will always be Ted Theodore Logan to me. That's who he is.
Is he? He's definitely not Bill.
He's Ted, isn't he?
Sure. Yes.
Don't do that to me, man.
No, I think he is Ted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For God's sake. He definitely is Ted.
Okay, cool.
Goodness me. Anyway, so, yeah, and I really do like this film. Watching it in this context, I definitely have some criticisms. I think that it is definitely more of a popcorn movie than I think they wanted it to be.
Okay.
I think it definitely could have had a bit more depth to it, a bit more kind of exploration into the religious side of things. They more just touched on the surface of... I know it has a lot of, obviously, the kind of biblical stuff, but it doesn't go into a great deal of depth and meaning about the different things that they touch on. So, and I think it could have been darker.
I think it's a roller coaster film in the sense of you have high bits, which are like, that's really cool, and then it just dips down, and it's
Definitely.
like, come on. And I don't mean, because a lot of films have that where it's like kind of like a midpoint, which is like, well, they need to explain this, that, and the other to get to the end result. But this doesn't do that. It just goes from sort of like, yay, that was really cool, to, all right, come on. And then just carries on. And that just... Okay, go on, keep going.
Well, what I will say, and let's just go straight in there and talk about Keanu Reeves as Constantine.
Okay. So...
Because, knowing more, hear me out. I'm not going to just, kiss his ass.
He's wonderful.
No. I'm saying I like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Now, Keanu Reeves as Constantine, now knowing more about that character, and how he is portrayed in the comic books.
Which is?
Well, he's from Liverpool.
Yep.
I know he's like blonde and everything, but I don't think that necessarily matters.
Okay.
But I think changing him from a Liverpudlian, which you don't need to be from England necessarily to know that is a very specific accent.
Yeah.
To being from LA,
Los Angeles,
is quite a drastic change, like from how the character would have been brought up, his background, everything like that. So I think that is mistake one. It changes
his attitude.
Definitely.
As well.
And even just from, his attitude being American rather than British, I think, generally have quite a different, outlook, different attitude to things, different sort of sense of humour as well, in some ways. So, yeah, I think that was probably the first mistake. Second of all, he's just not very dynamic,
He comes across as he's just fed up. He's bored.
Yeah, and I know that the character is meant to be kind of bitter and world weary.
Yeah.
But
a lot more. He's got a lot more knowledge of like the dark arts and whatnot. I mean, pitch him as almost being Vertigo's version of Doctor Strange. But I don't know. He's just a bastard.
Yeah.
He is a bastard, but also he's a lovable bastard.
Yeah, which is what my favourite kind of character.
Yeah.
I think some of the best characters are the sort of anti-heroes who...
Well, imagine, how about this? So, John Constantine in the Hellblazer comics, Swamp Thing comics, and Justice League Dark, he's almost more like Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow, but not as...
drunk?
Not as drunk, but very selfish.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But more so. He couldn't give a crap about anybody, really. All he wants to do is get drunk, smoke cigarettes, play cards.
Yeah.
That's all he really wants to do,
Yeah.
There's been parts in the comics where he's trying to... because as a child he could see these unthinkable things, and they haunted him, and then he committed suicide, and then I think he was chucked out of hell. I can't remember why. I can't remember the whole backstory, but I know that basically he was chucked out of heaven or hell. And yeah, he's just a bit of a dick, And as far as I'm concerned, Keanu Reeves just comes across as if he's just bored. And I like the comics. I used to be quite a fan of Hellblazer. I was more so a fan of Hellblazer than Swamp Thing and Justice League Dark. But granted, I've not read all of them. I'm not like a super fan.
Yeah.
I know the characters of like Papa Midnight and like John Constantine and I can't think of anybody else. There's loads. But yeah, I was more a fan of John Constantine as the character.
Sure.
In this, it's just not the same at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I could even get past the fact that he's not Liverpudlian. If he'd been English, fine. That's not a problem. But they just turned him into this dark-haired, bored American guy.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And Emma and Dan did say that, the film doesn't do the comic book justice, which is absolutely true. And unfortunately, I lean more on the side of, oh, God, I just don't like it that much.
Yeah, I think the thing is because...
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
But I think if Hollywood were going to do an adaptation of this, they could have done so much better. They tried to make it really dark, but actually it wasn't.
No, I think it wasn't
dark at all.
I've mentioned this to you already. I think stylistically, someone like Guillermo del Toro would have dealt with that kind of, subject matter and that kind of story a lot better.
And I agree. And my point of Guillermo del Toro is that the same year that Constantine was released was the same year that Hellboy was released, which is, as far as I'm concerned, a superior comic book film.
Definitely.
They even deal with the Spear of Destiny as well.
Yeah.
But the thing that I will say about Guillermo del Toro is that he's been heavily linked with doing a Justice League Dark live action film, which is that could work.
Yeah,
but
I'm here for that.
Guillermo del Toro, he just gets linked so many things that he never actually finishes.
Yes, that's true.
He's a busy boy.
Yeah.
Even though he hasn't done anything for ages. Shape of Water.
Shape of Water, yeah. I'm sure he's been doing stuff. I mean, there has been a pandemic, give him a break.
Yeah, fair enough. So, what else do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about how this is one of the worst comic book films?
Do you want to talk about that?
I do.
Okay.
So, this is our first ever comic book film that we've done on our podcast.
Goodness me.
I know.
How has it taken us 28 episodes?
I don't know. Me and Freya are very big fans of comic book films. We prefer Marvel over DC because we've got common sense.
Except Batman.
Well, hang on, because the DC EU starts essentially from, I think it's Man of Steel.
No, but I was just saying, except Batman.
What? So the Tim Burton one?
No, just Batman in general.
Oh, just Batman in general.
Yes.
Yeah, he's all right.
Shut up.
All right.
Continue.
Right. So there's been quite a few crappy comic book films over the years.
For sure.
I'll name just a couple of them. These are Thor: Dark World. They are Man of Steel, in my personal opinion.
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck is a terrible